Hello audience. Here we go, Fiat 500. The Fiat 500 is one of those rare cars in the world that is not just a car but a cultural statement, an icon that has transcended generations, borders, and trends. When we think of the Fiat 500, we don't just imagine a little city car rolling down the narrow cobblestone streets of Rome or parked stylishly by a cafe in Milan. We think of an enduring story of Italian creativity, design, and ingenuity. The Fiat 500 is a car that has stood the test of time, one that has reinvented itself while never losing the essence of what made it special in the first place. It is small, compact, cheerful, stylish, and full of character. But more than anything else, the Fiat 500 represents freedom, accessibility, and the joy of mobility. To talk about the Fiat 500 is to talk about how a car can become a symbol of national pride, a design masterpiece, and a beloved companion for millions of drivers across the globe. The story of the Fiat 500 goes back to the post-war era. Italy in the late 1940s and early 1950s was rebuilding itself from the devastation of World War II. The people needed affordable mobility, something that could give families and individuals the opportunity to travel, to work, to dream again. Cars at that time were often too expensive and out of reach for most ordinary Italians, so the demand was clear: a small, economical, and reliable car that anyone could afford. Fiat, being Italy's largest carmaker, understood this necessity better than anyone. They had already experienced success with the Fiat Topolino, which had been introduced in the 1930s, but by the 1950s, the world was ready for something new, something even more accessible. Enter Dante Giacosa, one of the most brilliant automotive engineers of his time. Giacosa was tasked with creating a car that was not only compact and economical but also practical for everyday life. What he came up with would go on to change the automotive landscape forever. The original Fiat 500, affectionately called the Cinquecento, made its debut in 1957. It was an instant revolution. At just under 3 meters long, it was tiny even by the standards of the time. But inside that compact package was pure genius. The car was powered by a small 2-cylinder engine mounted in the rear, producing just 13 horsepower at first, but it was enough to get the car moving through the narrow streets of Italy's bustling cities. Its top speed wasn't high, but it was never meant to be. The Fiat 500 was designed for the people, and what it offered was more than enough: cheap running costs, low fuel consumption, easy parking, and a surprising amount of practicality for its size. The styling of the Fiat 500 was another key to its success. With its rounded shape, simple yet elegant lines, and cheerful appearance, the car had a personality all of its own. It looked friendly, approachable, and full of life. In a time when cars were often serious, boxy, or utilitarian, the Fiat 500 stood out as something different. It was playful and stylish, capturing the spirit of Italy in the late 1950s, a country that was starting to dream of a brighter, more prosperous future. The Fiat 500 became the car of choice for young Italians, for small families, for anyone who wanted mobility without breaking the bank. It became not just a car, but a cultural movement. As the years went by, Fiat introduced various versions of the 500, improving its performance, comfort, and practicality. Models like the Fiat 500D, 500F, and 500L offered incremental upgrades, but always stayed true to the original formula. There was even a sportier version, the Fiat 500 Abarth, which took the tiny car and gave it a more spirited personality, proving that even a city car could have racing DNA when tuned by Carlo Abarth. The Fiat 500 became more than just a car, it became a symbol of Italy's post-war economic miracle. By the time production of the original model ended in 1975, nearly 4 million units had been sold, cementing its place in automotive history. But the Fiat 500's story didn't end there. Like many icons, it had a second life waiting for it. After decades of absence, Fiat decided in the early 2000s that the world was ready for a rebirth of the Cinquecento. Retro-styled cars were becoming popular, with models like the Volkswagen Beetle and the Mini Cooper successfully reinventing themselves for modern audiences. Fiat saw an opportunity to do the same with their beloved little car. In 2007, exactly 50 years after the launch of the original, Fiat introduced the new Fiat 500. This was not just a car, it was a celebration of heritage, a modern interpretation of a timeless design. The new Fiat 500 kept the charm of the original but updated it for the 21st century. Its rounded headlights, compact size, and playful styling were clear nods to the past, but under the skin, it was a thoroughly modern car. Built on a platform shared with the Fiat Panda, it offered modern safety features, efficient engines, and a comfortable interior. The new 500 was more than just transportation, it was a fashion accessory, a statement of style. It appealed to urban drivers, young professionals, and anyone who wanted something different from the ordinary hatchbacks on the market. The Fiat 500 became a global success, sold not only in Europe but also in markets like North America, where its Italian charm won many fans. Fiat continued to expand the 500 lineup in the modern era, introducing variants like the Fiat 500C convertible, the sporty Abarth versions, and the practical 500L and 500X models. Each one tried to capture a different audience, while still keeping the essence of the 500 alive. The Fiat 500 Abarth, in particular, became a favorite among enthusiasts, offering turbocharged engines, aggressive styling, and a driving experience that was far more thrilling than one might expect from such a small car. It proved once again that the 500 was more than just cute looks, it could also deliver excitement and performance. What makes the Fiat 500 so special is not just its design or its engineering, but the emotions it evokes. When you see a Fiat 500, whether it's the classic model from the 1960s or the modern version, it makes you smile. It has a warmth, a friendliness, a soul. Few cars can achieve that. The Fiat 500 is not intimidating or pretentious. It doesn't try to be something it's not. Instead, it embraces its small size and turns it into an advantage, making it perfect for city life. Its cheerful personality reflects the Italian way of life, stylish, passionate, and full of joy. Even as the automotive industry transitions into the electric era, the Fiat 500 is once again at the forefront of reinvention. In recent years, Fiat has introduced the new Fiat 500 Electric, a fully battery-powered version of the icon. With zero emissions, modern technology, and a design that still pays homage to the past, the 500 Electric is Fiat's way of ensuring that their beloved car continues to have a future in a world that is rapidly changing. It shows that even in a time of transformation, the soul of the 500 remains intact. The Fiat 500 is more than just a small car. It is a piece of history, a symbol of freedom, and a cultural touchstone. From the cobblestone streets of Rome to the avenues of Paris, from the crowded alleys of Tokyo to the busy roads of New York, the 500 has found fans everywhere. It has inspired artists, designers, and filmmakers. It has been celebrated in exhibitions and museums. It has been loved by millions. And it continues to endure, decade after decade, generation after generation. The Fiat 500 proves that sometimes the smallest things can make the biggest impact. The Fiat 500 is more than just a car, it is a symbol of Italian creativity, charm, and timeless design. Born in 1957, the original Cinquecento gave freedom to millions of Italians in the post-war era, offering affordable mobility in a package that was small, practical, and full of personality. With its rounded shape, friendly character, and compact size, it quickly became a cultural icon, beloved not only in Italy but across Europe. For many, it represented a new beginning, the joy of driving, and the accessibility of owning a car. Over the years, different versions came, including sporty Abarth editions, but the heart of the 500 always remained the same, stylish, cheerful, and unmistakable. After production ended in 1975, it never truly disappeared from people's hearts, and in 2007, Fiat revived the legend with a modern reinterpretation. The new Fiat 500 kept the soul of the original but updated it for today's world, making it not just a car but a fashion statement. Its global success proved that some designs never go out of style. Today, even as the world turns to electric cars, the Fiat 500 has embraced this future with the fully electric version, keeping its charm while offering zero emissions. The Fiat 500 is not just transport, it is art, culture, and emotion on four wheels, a little car with a big story that continues to inspire. The Fiat 500 is one of those cars that proves that size does not define greatness, because in its tiny proportions lies one of the biggest stories in automotive history. To speak about the Fiat 500 is to speak about Italy itself, about its spirit of creativity, resilience, and flair for design. The car was never just transportation, it was a revolution on wheels, an answer to a country's need for mobility, and a symbol of freedom and hope for ordinary people. The original Fiat 500, or Cinquecento as Italians fondly call it, was introduced in 1957, and it arrived in a world that desperately needed it. Post-war Europe was rebuilding itself, and Italians needed an affordable, practical, and reliable car that could weave through narrow streets, park in the tiniest of spaces, and run on minimal fuel. Fiat's engineers, led by the brilliant Dante Giacosa, designed exactly that, and in doing so, they created more than a car, they created an icon. The Fiat 500 was less than 3 meters long, but every inch of it was cleverly designed. With a small two-cylinder engine mounted at the rear, the car produced only around 13 horsepower in its earliest form, but that was enough to carry families, students, and workers across cities and towns. It was not about speed or luxury, it was about accessibility and practicality. For the first time, millions of Italians could dream of owning a car, and this sense of freedom transformed everyday life. The Fiat 500 was cheap to buy, cheap to run, and fun to drive, and because of this, it became a car for everyone, from young couples to grandparents. In its cheerful round shape and simple yet distinctive design, people saw not just a vehicle, but a friend, a companion that represented a better future. As production continued through the 1960s and 70s, the Fiat 500 became more than just popular, it became a cultural movement. It was small enough to dart through traffic, light enough to be pushed by hand if needed, and so compact that entire families could squeeze into it and still make it work. Different versions were introduced, like the Fiat 500D, 500F, and 500L, each one refining the formula while keeping the charm intact. And for those who wanted something livelier, there was the Fiat 500 Abarth, a tuned-up version that brought surprising performance to such a tiny package, showing that even a city car could have racing spirit. The 500 became a canvas for Italian ingenuity, appearing in films, advertisements, and even art. It was not just transport, it was fashion, style, and culture on four wheels. By the time production of the classic ended in 1975, nearly 4 million units had been sold, and the car had already earned its legendary status. For a while, the Fiat 500 disappeared from showrooms, but it never disappeared from hearts. The classic models became collector's items, treasured by enthusiasts who understood their significance. And then, in 2007, exactly 50 years after the original was launched, Fiat brought the 500 back to life. This modern reinterpretation of the Cinquecento was more than a car, it was a tribute, a celebration of heritage. Designed with retro-inspired curves, round headlights, and the unmistakable cheerful face, it captured the essence of the original while delivering everything modern drivers expected: safety, efficiency, comfort, and technology. Built on a platform shared with the Fiat Panda, it was bigger, stronger, and more refined, but it never lost its playful personality. It was offered as a hatchback, a convertible, and even in sporty Abarth versions that brought turbocharged excitement to the mix. The modern Fiat 500 quickly became a global sensation. In Europe, it fit perfectly into city life, becoming a favorite among young drivers, professionals, and anyone who valued style as much as substance. In markets like North America, it arrived as something refreshingly different, a small car with a huge personality, offering an Italian alternative to the everyday hatchback. Drivers didn't just buy the 500 for practicality, they bought it because it made them smile. Its design became a statement, and owning one was like carrying a piece of Italian charm wherever you went. Fiat expanded the family with the larger 500L and the crossover-inspired 500X, but it was always the core 500 hatchback that carried the most magic, proving that some designs never go out of fashion. The 500 also proved that being small could still mean being exciting. The Abarth models took the cuteness of the 500 and gave it an edge, with turbocharged engines, aggressive styling, and a growling exhaust note that turned heads. These cars showed that performance did not need to come in a large package, and that driving passion could be condensed into something as compact as the Fiat 500. Enthusiasts loved it because it combined fun with practicality, and in cities where space was limited, it became the perfect mix of thrill and usability. But as the world moved towards a new era of mobility, Fiat once again saw the opportunity to reinvent the 500 for modern times. The fully electric Fiat 500 was born, carrying the same iconic design but powered by battery technology for a new generation. The Fiat 500 Electric is stylish, efficient, and environmentally friendly, showing that the charm of the Cinquecento is timeless, able to adapt and evolve without losing its soul. It proves that even in an age of technology and transformation, the little Fiat still has a place in the world. What makes the Fiat 500 truly special is the way it connects with people on an emotional level. Cars can be machines, but the 500 has always been more than that. It represents joy, optimism, and the idea that mobility should be for everyone. Its size is not a limitation, it's its greatest strength. It teaches us that sometimes the smallest things have the biggest impact, and that design with soul can last forever. Whether it's the classic model buzzing through the streets of Rome, a modern version cruising through Paris, or an electric 500 gliding silently through a futuristic city, the spirit remains the same. It is a car that has captured generations, a symbol of freedom, and a piece of art that continues to live and evolve. The Fiat 500 is not just part of automotive history, it is part of cultural history. It tells the story of a nation rising from hardship, of families chasing new dreams, of designers proving that style and simplicity can go hand in hand. It is one of those rare cars that is instantly recognizable, instantly lovable, and instantly iconic. And as long as people value charm, design, and joy in their driving, the Fiat 500 will continue to roll on, proving that greatness often comes in the smallest packages. Thanks my lovely peoples.